You know, most people wouldn't believe me if I told them this, but if you're between 65 and 80 and can still do this one thing, you're a rare gem, and honestly, you might be one of those special few destined to live to 100. It's not about genetics, money, or luck. It's something simpler, deeper, and far more powerful than any of those. And once I tell you what it is, you'll start to recognize it in your own life and understand exactly why it matters more than almost anything else. This isn't about scaring you with health warnings or flooding you with medical jargon. It's about real life, real habits, and real strength that quietly builds up over the years and reveals just how strong and rare you truly are. Here's what you'll learn in this video. The quiet but powerful habits and traits that separate people who age with resilience, clarity, and vibrancy from those who fade too early. And more importantly, how to hold on to those traits or rebuild them so you can thrive. If that speaks to you, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps us going and helps bring more valuable and heartfelt content to wonderful people like you. Now, by sticking with me through this video, you're going to walk away not only feeling seen and understood, but also equipped with real-life tools and reflections that can help you take control of your health, your independence, your relationships, and your peace of mind. This isn't about age, it's about how you live the years you have and how to make them full, purposeful, and joyful. What is this thing I mentioned at the start? It's not flexibility or strength or even memory, though those are all great. It's adaptability. Yes, if you're 65 to 80 and you can still adapt, still change your routines, try new things, shift your mindset, or even just approach an old situation in a new way, you are already doing what most people your age struggle with deeply. Adaptability is the invisible thread that holds health, happiness, and longevity together. It's what allows someone to bounce back after a fall, make new friends after loss, or find peace when life doesn't go as planned. And it shows up in the smallest ways: how you respond when your morning walk is rained out, how you cope when your favorite food is suddenly off limits, how you manage your time when your body moves a little slower than it used to. People who live to 100 aren't stuck. They're flexible, not just in their joints, but in their minds and hearts. That kind of emotional flexibility, that's what gives life its breath. But let's be honest, it's not easy. Maybe you grew up in an era where change meant survival, not luxury. You adapted to hard times, worked through pain, raised families without much help, and kept going even when no one noticed. That ability, buried under decades of routine, might still be inside you. And now more than ever, it's time to bring it out again. Because while the world today moves faster than ever, your ability to slow down, observe, and adjust gives you an edge that even younger people envy. Seniors who thrive aren't the ones who just sit still and hope for the best. They're the ones who embrace the idea that it's never too late to grow, to shift, to move differently. They keep curiosity alive. They don't resist change, they learn to shape it. Maybe you've already adapted in ways you didn't even recognize. Did you start using a phone to stay in touch with your grandkids? Learn to text or video call? That's adaptability. Did you shift from heavy meals to lighter, healthier ones because your body told you to? That's adaptability. Did you start walking every day after the doctor said your blood pressure was creeping up? Again, adaptability. It doesn't have to be revolutionary. It just has to be consistent. And that consistency, that ability to face new things with a willing heart, that's one of the most powerful predictors of not just how long you live, but how well you live. But let's go even deeper. Let's talk about energy. Not just physical energy, but emotional stamina. People who live long lives tend to keep a spark alive inside them. They have reasons to get out of bed that go beyond habit. They look forward to their mornings. They find beauty in small things, whether it's watering their plants, calling a friend, or sitting in the sun. They don't carry resentment like a heavy bag. They release. They forgive. Not because they forget, but because they know carrying pain is far more exhausting than carrying groceries. That emotional lightness, that freedom, it doesn't just make you happier. It literally keeps your body healthier. Fewer stress hormones, better sleep, clearer thoughts. A lighter heart beats longer. That's not philosophy. That's science. And then there's movement. Not running marathons. Not bench pressing. Just moving daily, mindfully, gently. If you can still move your body without relying entirely on others, you're doing better than millions. Movement is not about how far or how fast. It's about how often. Walking to the mailbox, stretching while the kettle boils, rotating your ankles before you get out of bed. These small things stimulate circulation, balance, and muscle memory. They tell your body, I'm still here, and I still need you. And the body listens. Seniors who live long don't necessarily do more. They do consistently. The body thrives on rhythm, not bursts. So even if your movements are slower now, keep them going. That's your lifeline. Now let's talk about connection. Oh, this one is big. Seniors who live long and well have meaningful connections. Not necessarily a big family or a busy social calendar, but honest, mutual connections. Someone to laugh with, someone to check on you, someone who knows your stories, your struggles, and your joys. Loneliness is more dangerous than obesity or smoking. That's not an exaggeration. It chips away at the soul and, eventually, the body. So if you have even one person you talk to regularly, treasure that. Nurture it. And if you don't accept it as permanent. New friendships can blossom at any age. Join a group, call an old friend, volunteer. The act of showing up where people gather plants seeds of connection. Keep planting. Purpose is another pillar. Long-living people wake up with intention. Whether it's caring for a pet, writing in a journal, tending to a garden, or praying, there's something they're committed to. Purpose doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need applause. It just needs to matter to you. If you feel like you're drifting, find one small task that feels meaningful and start there. It could be helping someone, learning something new, or simply reflecting on your life with gratitude. Purpose fuels your emotional engine. And without it, days feel longer and heavier. With it, even quiet days feel rich. Let's not ignore food. People who reach their 90s and 100s often eat with wisdom. Not necessarily diets with names, but intuitive eating. They eat slowly. They savor. They eat more plants than meat, more color than beige, more real food than processed junk. They treat food as nourishment, not a reward or a punishment. If you're mindful about what you put into your body, if you listen when it says, enough, or I need more greens, then you're honoring the temple that carries you. That matters a lot. Sleep, too, plays a silent but massive role. Long-living seniors usually sleep deeply and regularly. They have routines, no late-night screens, no heavy meals before bed, no overstimulation. They wind down gently, signaling to the brain and body that rest is sacred. If your sleep has become erratic, it's not something to brush off. It deserves attention. Good sleep repairs your cells, stabilizes your mood, and sharpens your memory. It's your body's reset button. Respect it. And finally, mindset. The crown jewel. Seniors who make it to 100 tend to be optimists, not naive, but hopeful. They see setbacks as lessons, aging as a privilege, and every new day as a chance to try again. They laugh at themselves. They cry when needed. They don't hide from emotions, they move through them. They keep learning, even if it's just how to make better tea or remember a new neighbor's name. Their minds stay open, curious, humble. That's the glue that holds everything together. So, if you're 65 to 80 and still have even a little bit of that adaptability, that emotional agility, that spark of movement, connection, purpose, or curiosity, you are, truly, a rare gem. Don't underestimate what that means. You've already overcome more than most people will ever understand. You carry decades of wisdom, resilience, and quiet strength. And if you keep nurturing those inner resources, not chasing youth, but honoring your experience, you're not just aging, you're ascending. You're building a legacy of strength, compassion, and light. And who knows? That 100th birthday might just be the next chapter in your beautiful, ever-adapting story. And while many people your age start to slow down and believe that their best days are behind them, the truth is you might just be entering the richest season of your life. There's something extraordinary that happens when you reach this stage, not because the world changes, but because your perspective does. You begin to see what really matters and what never did. You stop chasing and start appreciating. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself, and that gives you a quiet kind of power. That kind of peace, that deep inner steadiness, is something younger people haven't earned yet. But you have. And it shows in the way you carry yourself, the way you listen, the way you love. You also begin to understand that simplicity is not something to be ashamed of, but something to strive for. The ability to find joy in a slow morning, in a perfectly brewed cup of tea, in a quiet afternoon walk, or in a familiar smile becomes the secret to lasting happiness. People who live to 100 aren't necessarily living big, they're living full. Every moment counts. Every routine becomes sacred. And even though their circles may shrink and their energy may shift, their hearts stay wide open. They're not afraid to feel, to forgive, or to let go. And when you can do that, when you can release the weight of the past and make space for something new, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. Another hidden strength that long-living people share is a deep trust in their own pace. They're not rushing to compete with the world. They've learned to slow down and still be productive, still be purposeful. They've discovered that you don't need to keep up with trends to stay relevant. You just need to stay true to yourself. They don't measure their worth by how busy they are, but by how meaningful their days feel. And if you've reached a point in your life where you're okay with saying no to things that don't serve you, that's a sign of emotional clarity few ever reach. They also have a sense of humor about aging. They don't take every wrinkle as a tragedy. They don't panic at every gray hair. They wear their age like a badge of honor because they know they've earned it. Laugh lines aren't flaws, they're proof that you've smiled. And a face that's lived is more beautiful than any magazine cover. People who reach 100 aren't obsessed with youth, they're connected to life. They accept their age, but they don't surrender to it. They still look forward to something. Whether it's dinner with a friend, a good book, or hearing a familiar song on the radio, they stay emotionally tuned in. And that sense of anticipation keeps the spirit alive. There's also this unshakable resilience they carry, not loud or dramatic, but steady. They've been through wars, recessions, heartbreaks, losses. And still, they wake up and make their beds. They get dressed, they move their bodies, they tend to their spaces. That quiet discipline becomes a lifeline. It reminds them that even when the world feels out of control, they are not. They find ways to create order, to keep their environments clean, to organize their lives with intention. They don't wallow. They act. And in those small, daily acts of order, they reclaim a sense of control that keeps their minds strong and their spirits anchored. And they don't stop dreaming. That's the magic. They might not dream of climbing mountains anymore, but they still dream of peace, of joy, of meaningful connection. Maybe they dream of seeing their great-grandchild take their first steps. Maybe they dream of finishing a book they always wanted to write, or learning a new skill, or reconnecting with someone they lost touch with. These dreams aren't childish, they're fuel. As long as you can look ahead with hope, your life still has forward momentum. And people who live a long time almost always keep some form of hope burning. One more thing that stands out among those who live past 90 and into 100, they tend to be kind. Not performative kindness, but real kindness. They speak softly. They give compliments freely. They smile at strangers. They say thank you often. That gentle grace isn't weakness, it's wisdom. They've learned that holding grudges hurts more than it heals. They've seen how small acts of love ripple far beyond the moment. They've let go of the need to always be right, and they've embraced the joy of being kind. And kindness, believe it or not, strengthens your heart. Literally. Studies show that kind people live longer. It's like a medicine for the soul and the body. And there's something else. You'll notice they're curious. Still asking questions. Still wondering. Still learning. They don't assume they know everything. In fact, they're often the first to admit they don't. That humility, that curiosity, is a quiet kind of brilliance. It's the difference between growing old and staying vibrant. When you're curious, the world stays interesting. Conversations stay fresh. Life stays worth exploring. So if you find yourself asking questions, seeking answers, or being open to new ideas, you're doing exactly what long-living people do. That's not just brain health, it's heart health. And they're grateful. Oh, they're so deeply grateful. Not just for the big things, but for the everyday miracles. Waking up without pain, having food to eat, feeling the sun on their face, hearing a familiar voice. These moments aren't taken for granted. They're absorbed, cherished. Gratitude becomes their daily prayer, even if it's never spoken out loud. And gratitude does something powerful. It shifts your entire perspective. It softens your fears, quiets your anxiety, and brings peace to your restless mind. People who live long know how to say thank you to life, to others, to themselves. They also tend to forgive themselves. That's a big one. They've made mistakes, just like anyone, but they don't carry guilt like an anchor. They reflect, they learn, and they move on. They don't replay old failures on a loop. They've learned to give themselves grace, and that grace creates space for healing. Self-compassion is like oxygen for the aging soul. If you can sit quietly with your own story and not feel shame, but pride, that's a rare and powerful gift. And it keeps you emotionally strong when life throws challenges your way. They protect their joy, not in a selfish way, but in a wise way. They know what drains them, and they know what fills them up. They've learned to say no to things that feel heavy and yes to things that feel light. They surround themselves with people who lift their spirits. They listen to music. They dance if they feel like it. They watch movies that make them laugh. They don't wait for happiness to arrive, they make space for it. And in that way, they create a kind of emotional immune system that protects them from negativity. And finally, they accept help when it's needed. They don't let pride keep them isolated. They understand that letting someone help you isn't weakness, it's connection. It's allowing someone else the joy of giving. People who live long lives don't try to do it all alone. They lean on others with grace. They build circles of support. They ask, they receive, and they give back in return. That give and take keeps them emotionally balanced and socially engaged. And that engagement is one of the most powerful predictors of a long, meaningful life. So if you're 65 to 80 and you see yourself in these words, even just a little bit, you're already carrying the qualities of those rare souls who live long and well. Keep adapting, keep loving, keep learning, keep forgiving, keep moving. Keep showing up for your life with open eyes and a willing heart. Because the truth is, you're not done. You're just getting to the good part. And one thing you'll find in the oldest people who live vibrant lives is that they've mastered the art of presence. They don't rush through their days. They notice things others overlook, the softness of a breeze, the sparkle in someone's eyes, the smell of freshly baked bread, or the way the light spills across the floor in the morning. Their lives aren't measured by how much they do, but by how deeply they experience what's around them. This attentiveness, this quiet awareness, it nourishes the soul and keeps their minds sharp. They're not drowning in distractions. They've learned to be here, now. That kind of presence gives them the ability to truly feel joy, to connect meaningfully, and to live with clarity, and they trust their instincts. They've lived long enough to know that inner voice isn't just a random thought. It's wisdom built on experience. When something feels off, they pause. When something feels right, they move toward it. They've stopped second-guessing themselves the way younger people often do. And that confidence, that quiet trust in themselves, allows them to walk through life with a steadiness that's rare. It also means they don't spend their days tangled in overthinking. They've simplified their decision-making. They listen, they feel, and they act. That clarity is priceless. They also protect their time like a sacred gift. You won't find them wasting hours on things that don't matter. They've learned to say no without guilt, to walk away from drama, and to avoid getting pulled into negativity. Their time is limited, and they know it, so they use it wisely. They invest their energy into things that nourish them, conversations that uplift, hobbies that bring joy, memories that warm the heart. They're not afraid to sit quietly with themselves either. Silence doesn't scare them. In fact, they welcome it. It gives them space to think, to heal, to breathe. And let's talk about generosity. It's one of the most beautiful traits you'll find in those who age gracefully and live long lives. They give freely, not just money, but time, wisdom, encouragement, and affection. They write letters, call people, offer hugs, and say, "I love you," often. Their generosity isn't calculated. It comes from the heart. And what's incredible is that this giving spirit actually contributes to their health. Giving releases chemicals in the brain that promote happiness, calmness, and a sense of connection. Generous people feel fulfilled, and fulfillment keeps the spirit alive longer than anything else. They also keep a sense of structure. Even if they're retired, they maintain a routine. They wake up around the same time, they eat meals at regular hours, and they make sure their days have rhythm. This kind of predictability calms the nervous system and supports better sleep, digestion, and mental clarity. Structure gives their days purpose. It also gives them something to look forward to. It doesn't have to be rigid. It just needs to be consistent. That regularity becomes an anchor, especially when life feels uncertain. And people who live long know how to build those anchors into their daily life. There's also an appreciation for solitude. Not loneliness, but solitude, the intentional act of spending time with yourself. The oldest people you'll meet aren't afraid of being alone. In fact, they find it refreshing. They use the time to reflect, to pray, to write, or simply to sit in peace. They've learned that you don't need a crowd to feel whole. You need self-respect, inner peace, and a relationship with yourself that's kind. They've cultivated that. They speak to themselves gently. They look back on their lives with softness. They've made peace with their past and embraced who they've become. Another remarkable trait is creativity. Even in old age, they create. Maybe they paint, knit, garden, cook new recipes, write poetry, or build birdhouses. They keep their hands and minds busy with beauty. Creativity isn't just for artists, it's for anyone who wants to stay alive inside. And creating something, no matter how simple, gives the brain stimulation, the heart satisfaction, and the soul joy. They know that they're not too old to make something new. That spirit of creating, of building, of expressing, that's the heartbeat of longevity. They also know how to adapt their homes. Long-living people make their environment work for them, not the other way around. They remove clutter, place things where they're easy to reach, install grab bars in bathrooms, keep pathways clear, and surround themselves with things that make them feel safe, comfortable, and joyful. Their homes are not just places to live, they're sanctuaries. And that matters, because when your space supports you, it reduces stress. It allows you to move freely and breathe deeply. People who live long live in spaces that feel like them, that support their needs, and that bring them peace. Let's not forget how much they value rest, not just sleep, but real rest. Moments of stillness, breaks in the day, time to sit outside and let the sun kiss their skin. They've stopped feeling guilty for taking it slow. They've stopped equating busyness with worth. They rest without apology. And this kind of rest, intentional, nourishing, uninterrupted, is exactly what helps the body regenerate. It supports immune function, improves memory, and stabilizes emotions. The oldest souls know that productivity without rest is burnout. So they embrace rest as part of their wellness, not as laziness, but as wisdom, and they laugh, really laugh, often at themselves. They don't take everything so seriously. They develop the ability to find humor in the ordinary. They tell stories with a twinkle in their eye. They make jokes. They laugh at life's absurdities. And this laughter, this ability to be lighthearted, brings incredible relief to the body and mind. It lifts stress. It bonds people. It keeps the spirit flexible. People who live to 100 rarely take themselves too seriously. They understand that joy isn't something that just shows up. It's something you choose over and over again. Most of all, they live with intention. Their days aren't perfect, but they're purposeful. They don't drift. They don't waste years in regret. They know time is precious, and they use it accordingly. They read. They learn. They pray. They connect. They grow. Even at 85 or 95, they're still open to evolving. That kind of mindset, that refusal to stay stuck, is rare and beautiful. If you're 65 to 80 and you've held on to even a piece of that drive, you're already one of the few. You already carry the blueprint for a life that extends far beyond what most people expect. And when the hard days come, as they always do, they don't crumble. They grieve, they feel, but they don't collapse. They've built emotional muscles that allow them to bend, not break. They cry when they need to, but they don't give up. They process their emotions and keep moving. That resilience is what keeps them going when others stop. They know that even in darkness, there's a path forward. And they trust that they'll find it, one step at a time. So if you recognize yourself in even a fraction of this, if you're still curious, still kind, still moving, still open to change, then believe me when I say, you're not just aging. You're thriving. You're already living in a way that honors your past and embraces your future. You're already on the path that leads to 90, 100, or beyond, not just in years, but in meaning. And that's something truly extraordinary.